Certainly, 2027 is taking shape in terms of elections in Nigeria. In the last couple of days, several activities and pronouncements have shown that despite the concerns shown by Nigerians towards the attitude of politicians and politics, the race for 2027 has begun in earnest, and governance, like some have expressed their fears, is taking the backseat. Welcome to this edition of Talking Politics with Dr. Oladipo. I am your host, and I'm the managing editor of The Eagle Online, which operates at www.theeagleonline.com.ng. In this edition of the program, we'll be looking at the latest revelations and permutations as it relates to the 2027 presidential election specifically. A visit that was termed an Eid al-Fitr visit to former President Muhammadu Buhari opened up a lot on Friday as we recorded this program and gave very deep insights into what to expect in 2027 and those who will be the main actors. First, let's talk about that visit, which a lot of people are now paying attention to. That visit was led by former Vice President of Nigeria and the Waziri Adamawa, that is talking about Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, to President Muhammadu Buhari, that's former President of Nigeria, in Kaduna in his residence on Friday. That visit, which came before the usual Friday Jumat prayer, had a lot of political actors and gladiators who are already gearing up for 2027 in tow. On the list of those who visited Buhari alongside Atiku Abubakar were a former governor of Kaduna State, two-term at that, Malam Nasir El-Rufai. So also was there a former Speaker of the House of Representatives, who was also a former two-time governor of Sokoto State and now a senator, that is talking about Aminu Tambuwal. And then we also had on that trip Senator Bindu Jibrila, a former governor of Adamawa State. A former governor of Benue State, Senator Gabriel Suswan, was also there. A former governor of Imo State, Chief Achike Udenwa. Senator Idris Umar, Honorable Mohammed Kumaila, Captain Yahya Abubakar, Alhaji Musa Alilu, that's the Jujima of Adamawa, and Alhaji Salisu Makarfi, just to mention a few. Yes, after the visit, the Atiku media team was very quick in saying that the visit was simply a Salah visit, and it's coming some weeks after the Eid al-Fitr holiday, which ordinarily should have been used as the period for the visit. But the media office is saying this is coming now because the Waziri Adamawa had to play his role as a senior traditional chief in his domain and had to hold the fort for the Lamido Fombina, that's His Royal Highness Dr. Muhammadu Bakindo Aliyu Mustafa, during some of the activities for the Salah. That's usually true. But then, as we later learned, there was more to that visit than meets the eye. Sources at that meeting told us that behind the scene, was a meeting to tell the former president, that is Muhammadu Buhari, what plans have been put in place ahead of the 2027 elections and gets his buy-in. And for those who are good political watchers, with this visit coming a few days after some governors, not all, who were elected on the platform of the All Progressives Congress visited former President Muhammadu Buhari, it says a lot. Part of the fallout from that visit by the governors was the fact that some of them were already discussing the possibility of taking out the Congress for Progressive Change. That was the platform on which former President Muhammadu Buhari ran for the presidential election 3 times and did not make it. That party, that is the CPC, was among the big four that fused and became the All Progressives Congress, which then produced Muhammadu Buhari as president, and he ran for 2 terms. The permutation is that that party is going to be useful, as you'll see in this analysis as we go along. But with those who are reading into the political scene ahead of the 2027 election, the feeling is that these 2 visits are interwoven, though done separately. Some of those who were privy to the Friday visit by the team led by Atiku Abubakar hinted us that part of the briefing to the former president was the fact that they have been talking across board, across all parties. And those who went to see him are now set to set up a structure that they believe can defeat the incumbent, that is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his party, the All Progressives Congress. Already, some itches have stepped into the APC and some are already leaving. There have been so many criticisms of the present government that is giving a hint that it is possible to successfully challenge President Tinubu in the upcoming election in 2027, and that with the right structure in place, it could be a very easy win for the team margin to confront him. And there are so many reasons for this, especially when the issues that are being discussed on the political scene are matched and made to make sense. But let's first give you this hint about where these gladiators are going to from what we learned on Friday. The plan is that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who was the candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the last election, that's the last presidential election, will be the presidential candidate of the alliance to work against the re-election of President Tinubu. We were also reliably informed that that team has successfully convinced the candidate of the Labour Party in the last presidential election, that is speaking about Peter Obi, to run as his running mate, that is as the vice presidential candidate. And what they also told us was the fact that it has been agreed that Atiku Abubakar will do just 1 term between 2027 and 2031. And then Peter Obi will take over as president and do 2 terms from there. How this will work out, we have been told, is that first, Peter Obi will bring the structure of the Labour Party into whichever platform will be used to actualize this ambition and vision. Some have told us that we should look in the direction of the Social Democratic Party as the platform to be used for this purpose. Indeed, for those who have been following the political scene, it will be recalled that the former governor of Kaduna State, that is talking about Nasir El-Rufai now, who was on the trip to visit Buhari, has moved into the Social Democratic Party despite the topsy-turvy that has been seen, with some saying he's not yet a member, he has to go and kill, he has to do this, he has to do that. But he's already in the SDP. He has been received and is already, according to what we were told, speaking with the national chairman of that party, who has also agreed that, and said it openly also, that if he sees a good presidential material, he will not run or contest the presidency in 2027. You will recall that he was the candidate of the SDP for the last election. So why will Atiku not be using the PDP as a platform or convince others for it to be used? We were told that they've decided to abandon the PDP ship to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, who has been seen as creating problem for the party in order to let it serve the purpose of the All Progressive Congress in the 2027 election. A lot of things have happened in the PDP, but most of it we all know. And for that purpose, in order not to distract or detract from our main focus today, we won't be talking about them. But the decision, like I said earlier, is to abandon the PDP and look for an alternative party. And this then leaves these political gladiators with two platforms: the Congress for Progressive Change, CPC, or the Social Democratic Party, SDP. And it appears those who are embarking on this journey to challenge the APC and President Tinubu are so sure of the factors that will aid their ambition and decision to confront the ruling party. One is the fact that a lot of people in the North are already complaining about the government of the day. And perhaps the topmost socio-political group or political group in itself in the North, that's the Arewa Consultative Forum, has said it very clearly that it is not pleased with the way the country is being run by President Tinubu. Not once, not twice. So, consultations in that regard had been made, and we were told that Atiku Abubakar had been assured of the backing of that group ahead of the 2027 poll. And with the ACF and its structure being made available to Atiku Abubakar, it is believed that he will be able to get more support and more votes from the North this time around. So also, it is believed that with some of the philanthropy that has been done countrywide, especially in the North, by Peter Obi, he will also be able to garner support. And with the structure of the Labour Party being countrywide also, the North should be in favor of that combination of the two of them. So these gladiators are looking in the direction of the North for greater support than both Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi got in the 2023 election. We are still watching, and if anything changes on that front, we'll give you an update. For the APC, there is this belief that it is breaking down gradually nationwide because of some issues around politicking, which also includes appointments. And two states have been used as examples of where things are seriously breaking down. Number one is the state of the president, that is Lagos State, and then the second is in Rivers, where the president, shockingly and unexpectedly, introduced a state of emergency and appointed a sole administrator to oversee the affairs of that state, removing the democratic structure already put in place as at the time. A lot of people have criticized that move, and this is being seen as a minus for the president. But we shouldn't also forget that so many people have also come up to back that position, saying the move by the president was justifiable on every score. And then we shouldn't also forget that, as they have told us, so many bigwigs of the APC are already at loggerheads with the president. They do not agree with a lot of his policies and politics. And one of them is Rotimi Amaechi, former governor of that state, a presidential aspirant in 2023 on the platform of the APC, and some other former governors of that state and political bigwigs. A lot of people in the South also still feel aggrieved about the way the country is being run. And this is to remind us that in Rivers State, we sometimes get up to 2 million votes in elections. As for Lagos State, you will recall, as we have said in several programs on this channel, that there is crisis in the All Progressives Congress. And the first thing to say here is that even when the APC was one old bunch, the incumbent, that's the president, lost the presidential election in Lagos State in 2023. Peter Obi won the state. He had about 10,000 votes over what President Tinubu had. Let's remind you, while Peter Obi got 582,454 votes in what was considered a massive offset, President Bola Tinubu scored 572,606 votes, while Atiku Abubakar just got 75,750 votes. The thinking is that this will likely repeat itself, and most likely on a wider margin in 2027. We will recollect that the crisis in the Lagos State House of Assembly is still raging. It's not been resolved fully. That's why the Assembly has not been sitting as it should since January 13, 2027, when the now recalled Speaker, Mudashiru Obasa, was removed by 36 out of 40 members of that assembly. Things have really not healed up. And as you recall in our last edition of Talking Politics and Other Issues with Dr. Oladipo, we also brought you the fact that there is an ongoing move to have the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, resign over that crisis in the assembly. If you go back to that video, you'll learn why he has been told to put in his resignation. But this is still ongoing, and with the permutation that is going on, that if when he's removed, the deputy governor, Dr. Bafemi Hamzat, will take over, complete his tenure, and then, like some have been saying around town, the son of the president, Seyi Tinubu, will then take over in 2027 as governor. A lot of people have commented on this, but nothing is cast in stone yet, and we do not know exactly how this will pan out. But beyond that is the fact that the crisis in the assembly has polarized the APC in Lagos State. And the man who is at the head of the team that normally canvasses votes for President Tinubu, that is Mudashiru Obasa, is also beginning to get into some trouble beyond what is happening in the assembly. His own people, where he hails from, which is Agege local government area, are up in arms against him, saying he wants to impose his son as the next chairman of Agege local government area. He's also been accused of looking into Orile Agege local council development area in order to allegedly impose the chairman in that LCDA. The local council election will hold in Lagos State this year, certainly. All that is being awaited is for the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission to release the timetable, and the race begins. How Obasa will survive this, a lot of people are still wondering, especially if he's still expected as the leader of the group called Mandate Group, which canvasses votes for the president and mobilizes in all elections even before now. If that group will be able to stay intact with all that is happening. And then, of recent, two issues have come up, which a lot of watchers of the political scene believe are orchestrated in preparation for the 2027 election in order to unsettle not just the president, but his entire team. Those two issues are his frequent travel out of the country and the lopsided as being bandied around appointments that they said the president made since he came into office. As we speak, the president is in France. When he was leaving, his special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Onuga, said he was going on a personal visit for 2 weeks. He's still there, but the meal has been running very fast and deeply also, that he traveled out of the country because he was ill. But we've seen the president a couple of times, especially today, just before we went into the studio, where he received a senior advisor of the United States of America State Department of State in Paris. On the lopsided appointees, that battle has not stopped raging. The word that is being put out is that the president has dominated his list with his Lagos boys. Some are not even mentioning his own ethnic stock, which is the Yoruba ethnic stock, but they are particular about the Lagos boys. Unfortunately, also, to add to this dilemma, when the presidency tried to debunk these lopsided appointments, there were also errors in the list that was released. That list has been withdrawn and seemingly corrected, but that error has still refused to go away. The president is also said to have lost a lot of footing in the Southeast. At some point, a faction of Ohaneze Indigbo, the highest socio-political group in the Southeast, was backing the president. But now that backing has waned. And some are saying it is because those who are the political gladiators in the Southeast have said to that faction that they needed to come home and back one of their own. Though some are insinuating that it was because the president withdrew his financial backing for that faction. We'll get you what actually has gone wrong in details, because it is an interesting angle to that move to get President Tinubu out of office in 2027. So those who are the gladiators now are already tinkering with the figures. They have combined the votes of Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi in 2023 to arrive at a conclusion that it is possible to beat the incumbent. Nigeria has a total of 93,469,008 voters. In 2023, the turnout was just 26.71% of that figure. While Tinubu won in 12 states with 8,794,726 votes, which is about 36.61% of the votes. Atiku also took 12 states with 6,984,520 votes, which is about 29.07% of the votes. For Peter Obi, he won in 11 states, technically 12 because he also won in the FCT. And he had 6,101 votes, 533,000, which is 25.40% of the vote cast. And then for the candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, Rabiu Kwakwanso, he took only one state and had a very paltry vote of 1,496,687, which is about 64.40% of the votes. Combining those, the top two now, which is Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, it amounted to 13,086,053 votes, whereas Tinubu had 8,794,726 votes. The calculation is that these two, that is Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, can get more votes with the ill feelings that is being created now and the reality on ground that of the fact that the economy and the situation of things in Nigeria are not getting better. There are those other two factors of the lopsided appointments and the frequent travel of the president, which a lot of people have said is eating deep into the coffers of Nigeria. So, for those who are making these moves, they've been visiting several leaders. We have had several visits to former President Olusegun Obasanjo also, and it hasn't stopped. Some of them have visited former military president Ibrahim Babangida. They visited former head of state Abdulsalami Abubakar. But as they are doing this, the Tinubu soldiers have also started the campaign ahead of 2027. They are also throwing out their own points of view to Nigerians. So many things are happening on the political scene now. But one thing is certain, the days ahead will be interesting. The days ahead will be challenging on the political scene, and we wait to see how this pans out. So as we end this, like I said, don't forget that those who are canvassing for the two sides are taking the drive for votes higher. They've started. One of them, who is a former member of the Lagos State House of Assembly, two-term member, Sir Jude Dimogua, said there is no vacancy in Nassau Rock come 2027. One of the one of the biggest backers of the president, who is the national chairman of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, MC Oluomo, is also saying the race for 2027 has started. And the president is being defended on all scores. His economic reforms, with the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, releasing figures showing that things are getting better. It is indeed going to be an interesting time ahead of 2027, despite the fact that many Nigerians are already complaining that governance has stopped 2 years ahead of that election. We are watching from the sidelines here, and we are going to bring you the latest if anything changes. Because like we have said, the permutation now is for Atiku Abubakar to do one term from 2027 to 2023 with Peter Obi as his running mate, and then for Peter Obi to take over from 2035 as the president and possibly run for 2 terms. We will always keep you updated. We will always let you know the parties they are going to consider again outside of the SDP and the CPC. All of this you can be sure to get firsthand here on this program, Talking Politics with Dr. Oladipo. Until when I come your way again, don't forget to subscribe to this channel because that's very important to us. Don't forget to like this video and don't forget to share it. More details, juicy ones at that, in our next edition of Talking Politics with Dr. Oladipo. I hope to see you then. Thank you for staying with us always. Bye for now.